If you enjoy our podcast, C-Pop Deep Dive, don't forget to leave a message, give us a 5-star rating, subscribe, and share your favorite episodes on social media. You can find us on Instagram at @CPOP Deep Dive. We look forward to hearing your thoughts on the show.
Okay, you know those names that just like grab you? The ones that sound like, I don't know, like a melody waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt when this deep dive landed in my queue. Baba. I mean, come on.
Right.
You've got to be at least a little curious.
Playful, intriguing, it just like pulls you in. And it's funny you say melody because it's like you get a sense of her personality right off the bat. What's fascinating is that it's not some, calculated stage name.
Wait, really? I was totally picturing a team of marketers brainstorming that one.
Way more organic. Juem is a phonetic play on her English name, Joanne, but Baba.
Okay.
It was part of her student ID number.
Are you kidding me? That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like she's weaving these little pieces of herself into her artist name from the very beginning. Speaking of identity, she studied fashion design, right?
It's true. She even landed an internship in New York City after university.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting. That fashion background. Crucial to understanding her aesthetic. It's like another layer of her artistic expression.
So it's not just about the clothes, it's about this whole visual language she's created.
She said, both clothing and music are forms of expression. Just one uses sound and the other uses materials or silhouettes. She sees them as like these interconnected ways to explore who she is. And you can see that in how her visual style has evolved. Remember those pictures of her with the afro? Now she's rocking this sleek, sophisticated look. It's like each era is a new chapter in her visual story.
Okay, I love that. New York City, though, that feels like a whole other chapter, too.
Oh, it's a pivotal one. New York, with its legendary music scene, is where everything changes for her. In her mid-20s, she decides to study jazz vocals at the New School.
Talk about a plot twist. To go from the world of fashion design to diving headfirst into jazz, that takes some serious guts.
It really does. And it speaks to a theme we see throughout her journey, this willingness to face her fears and pursue what she loves, even when it means stepping outside her comfort zone. There's a quote where she talks about this very thing. She says, I was about 24 at the time. I felt I could stop at any time, but I at least needed to give my life an explanation.
I love that. So New York becomes this crucible for her, both musically and personally.
Yeah.
It's like she's finding her voice in this new city, this new genre. I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
And get this, she doesn't waste any time. She dives right into the collaborative spirit of the New York music scene. In fact, it's where she earns the nickname Queen of Featuring.
Right. Before she even releases her own album, she's collaborating with everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I got to hear about this. Who are some of those early features?
Well, for starters, there's Leo Wang. They collaborated on Weekends with You and Highest Quality Silence. And then you have the track You Walk Towards Me with Ma Nin-hsien.
Okay.
But she doesn't stop there. She goes on to work with Wu Qingfeng.
Wow. It's like a who's who of the Taiwanese music scene. What do you think she took away from those early collaborations?
First, it undeniably shaped her sound. Working with such diverse artists, it exposed her to different styles, different production techniques. It all gets woven into her musical DNA.
Right.
And then, just as importantly, it gave her a backstage pass to the music industry. From indie projects to more mainstream collaborations, she's soaking it all in, learning the ropes.
Okay, so she's honed her skills, found her people. It feels like the perfect setup for a debut album, right?
Exactly. And in 2019, she delivers. Big time.
Okay.
And the title, well, it speaks volumes. Beyond Mediocrity.
Ooh, I love that. It's bold, it's ambitious. I'm already getting a sense of who she is as an artist just from that title.
And it's not just a catchy phrase. It's deeply connected to her journey. Remember how we talked about her overcoming self-doubt to pursue music? This album, Beyond Mediocrity, is the embodiment of that struggle. It's her declaration that she's breaking free from limitations, both internal and external, to create something truly her own.
Okay, now I'm even more curious to hear what it sounds like. Paint us a picture. What is she serving up on? Beyond Mediocrity.
Imagine this. Those jazz roots we talked about.
Yeah.
They're there. But she doesn't stop there. She blends in these smooth R&B grooves, those alternative hip-hop influences she picked up along the way. And then she ties it all together with this vintage-tinged aesthetic. Think of smoky jazz clubs, old school microphones, that kind of vibe.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. I'm a sucker for anything vintage.
Oh, then you'll love this. She goes all in on the visuals too, the music videos, the fashion. She even collaborates with Taiwanese and Korean beat makers to capture that specific sonic landscape she's going for. It's a whole mood.
This is making me want to hit play as soon as we're done recording. Are there any tracks on the album that really capture that essence of beyond mediocrity?
Absolutely. You've got to check out Aim High. The lyrics are all about confidence, about pushing yourself further than you think you can go. You can feel that energy instantly. And then, for a taste of her jazz prowess, there's, If I Could, pure jazz bliss. It's a masterclass in vocal range.
This is why I love a good deep dive. We're only scratching the surface here, and I already feel like I'm getting a crash course in Juembaba 101.
Oh, we're just getting started. Trust me, her journey only gets more interesting from here.
Okay, so she's conquered the New York scene, collaborated with the who's who of Taiwanese artists, and released an album that's basically a declaration of creative independence. What's next for Juembaba?
Well, her second album, Juembaba Radio, is where we see her step into a fascinating new role. Remember how she was the queen of featuring? This time around, she becomes the curator, the maestro of her own sonic adventure.
Ooh, I love that analogy. It's like she's taking everything she learned from those collaborations and using it to build her own musical world.
Exactly. And she's intentionally expanding her sonic palette on this album. We still hear those jazz roots and that vintage flair, but she's bringing in influences from all over the map.
Okay, now you've got me really curious. Give me some examples. What does this global sonic palette sound like?
Get ready for this. What You Gonna blends her signature style with these lush orchestral elements.
Okay.
And as if that wasn't intriguing enough, she throws in some French lyrics.
Okay, stop. Orchestral and French. I am here for this. I'm picturing a smoky jazz club, but with a whole symphony hiding in the shadows.
You're getting it. And as if that wasn't enough of a sonic adventure, she teams up with Korean R&B artist Sumin for Sleepwalking. This one's got this hypnotic electronic vibe that's completely different from anything on her first album.
Yeah.
It's so cool how she can go from orchestral grandeur to this chilled out electronic sound and make it all feel cohesive.
Okay, you're totally selling me on Juembaba Radio. The way she's weaving together these different textures, these different languages, it sounds so expansive.
And the title itself is a big clue to what she's doing here. Think about it. Radio's all about connection, about tuning into different frequencies, different worlds. It's like she's inviting us to come along on this sonic journey with her, exploring all these different genres and soundscapes.
And I am so ready for that journey. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, there's one more album we need to unpack, right? Tell me about Scent.
Scent is fascinating because it feels like a homecoming for Juembaba. Remember how Juembaba Radio was all about global exploration?
Totally.
This time, she turns her attention inward, back to her roots. Musically and thematically, Scent is all about reconnecting with the soundscape of her upbringing in Taiwan. We hear a lot more Mandarin pop influences on this album.
Wow, okay, so another sonic shift. From global exploration to a more introspective, homeward-bound vibe. What does that sound like?
It's surprisingly nostalgic. Tracks like Long Time No See still have that signature Juembaba funk groove, but there's this distinctly Taiwanese flavor woven in that's really captivating. It's like she's blending her musical past with her present.
I love when artists aren't afraid to embrace those cultural nuances. It makes the music so much richer, so much more personal.
I completely agree, and Scent is full of those personal touches.
Are there any other tracks on the album that you think really highlight this return to her roots?
Definitely. Frenemy is a great example. It's got this smooth, infectious 90s Coco Lee vibe.
Oh, I love that. Coco Lee was such an icon. It's so cool how she's incorporating those classic 90s sounds into her music.
It's brilliant, right? And she collaborates with one of her musical idols, Cheer Chen, on Decide Not to Miss You. It's a really powerful track and a definite highlight of the album.
So we've got global collaborations, Taiwanese influences, 90s pop throwbacks. She really does defy categorization, doesn't she?
She truly does. It's like she's creating her own genre at this point, which I think is exactly what she's going for. She once said, maybe because of different musical experiences, what I convey as A might still be heard as B by others. So now I don't mind too much how people see me as long as my creative journey keeps moving forward.
That quote really resonates with me. It's so easy to get caught up in trying to fit into a box, to please everyone. But Juembaba reminds us that it's okay to embrace the evolution, the constant exploration. But there's got to be some thread that ties it all together, right? What's the common denominator in all of this sonic experimentation?
It's funny you say that. As we've been talking about Yuan Baba, I keep thinking about how like visual her music feels. Maybe it's the fashion background. But when I listen to her songs, I see these like vivid images, these little scenes playing out in my head.
Oh, 100%. She's a highly visual artist, and that extends to her lyrics, too.
Right.
She has this incredible knack for capturing these, like, relatable everyday experiences, especially for young women.
Right. It's not always about these like grand narratives or like sweeping epics. It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. Exactly. And one of the things that's so captivating about her songwriting is how she blends humor and vulnerability.
Yeah.
Take a song like Nine Head Hinano, for example.
Yeah.
It's quirky, it's playful, but beneath that playful exterior, it's making a powerful statement about female representation. Or tell me, it was inspired by this like heartbreaking cyberbullying incident.
Ow.
But she transforms that pain into this anthem of self-acceptance and empowerment.
Wow, that's powerful. And it makes me think about something we touched on earlier, that idea of authenticity being the thread that connects all of her work. Because you can really feel that honesty in her lyrics, like she's giving you a glimpse into her diary.
She said something along those lines herself. There's a quote where she says, "My songs are portraits of my feelings. They can be big or small, but they're closely related to me."
That's beautiful. And it explains why her music feels so relatable, even when she's experimenting with these different genres, these different soundscapes. You're tapping into something real, something universal beneath it all. And speaking of those sonic adventures, you mentioned earlier that she puts a lot of thought into the visuals that accompany her music.
Oh, absolutely. Her music videos are not to be missed.
Uh-huh.
They add this whole other layer to the experience of her music.
Okay, now I'm really adding those to my to-do list because let's be real, never sleep on a good music video, right?
Yeah,
They can be so transformative, so essential to an artist's vision.
100%.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left feeling incredibly inspired by Juan Baba's journey. From those early days in fashion design to her rise as this musical chameleon, she's constantly pushing boundaries and defying expectations. It makes me wonder, what kind of lasting impression do you think she hopes to leave on her listeners?
That's a great question. I think for Juan Baba, it's not so much about dictating a specific message, but more about encouraging people to embrace their own unique voices, their own unique experiences. She's all about authenticity, about finding the extraordinary in the everyday, and I think that's what resonates so deeply with her fans.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think we have the perfect homework assignment for our listeners. Go listen to Juan Baba, start wherever you like, jump around, explore those sonic landscapes we talked about.
Yep.
And most importantly, let us know what you think, what resonates with you, what surprises you. Because that's the beauty of an artist like Juan Baba. There's always something new to discover.